Good afternoon everybody. Today I'll be making a presentation on Brexit. First of all, I divided my presentation into 7 parts. In the first part I'll be talking about what is Brexit. In the second part I'll be giving a basic overview of the European Union and what role the United Kingdom plays in it. In the third part I'll be discussing the reasons why the United Kingdom suddenly decided to leave the European Union. And in the fourth part I'll be discussing why people voted for and against becoming a member. In the fifth part I'll be discussing the results. In the sixth part, Brexit today. And finally in the last part I'll be discussing possible outcomes for the United Kingdom in the long run. In the first part I'll be discussing what is Brexit. Brexit is an abbreviation of British exit, referring to the United Kingdom's decision in 2016 to leave the European Union. Now I'll be talking about what the European Union is and what role the United Kingdom plays in it. The European Union is an economic and political bloc consisting of 28 member states. It was founded in 1950 under the name European Coal and Steel Community. The European Union grew out from a desire to form a single European entity to end years of warfare. Now I'll be discussing why the United Kingdom suddenly decided to leave the European Union. Ever since the United Kingdom entered the EEC, European Economic Community, which would later become the European Union, there had been opposition towards it. Only 2 years after they joined the EEC, they held the first referendum and decided to remain a member. The person given in the photo is Peter Shaw, a pre-eminent politician of his time who campaigned against membership. And now I want to talk about UKIP and what role it played in the Brexit campaign. First of all, this is the leader of UKIP, Nigel Farage, and the UKIP is a Eurosceptic party, meaning it views the European Union with suspicion. It wants to leave the European Union. So former Prime Minister David Cameron, he wanted the support of these Brexit supporters. So he promised that if he was re-elected, he would allow a referendum to take place. Now I want to talk about why people voted for Brexit. The first and most obvious reason is immigration. In the past decade, Britain's population has seen a surge. However, this is also not reflected onto the native English population. Also, the membership fees is an important factor. The United Kingdom pays in 16 million euros every year and only receives 4 million in return, whereas a country like Poland is the complete opposite. It receives around 15 million and only pays 4 million. And also, some British citizens felt that their sovereignty was under attack by unelected Brussels MPs. And also not being freely allowed to trade with other nations of the world was also an important factor. Whenever Britain wanted to trade with a country which was not part of the European Union, it had to be accepted by the European Union first. Now I want to talk about reasons why people voted against Brexit. The main reason is the public was afraid of such a big change. And nearly half of Britain's trade goes to the European Union. If the new government fails to deliver new trade agreements, many people will be left unemployed and their GDP could fall. And also it would make travelling abroad much more difficult. And college students would require a visa to study and work in EU member states. This is the reason why many of the younger generation voted to remain in the European Union. Now I'll be discussing the results of the referendum. As you can see, 52% of the population voted to leave the European Union. As you can see in the map, the blue areas are the areas which voted to leave and the yellow areas are the areas which voted to remain. Most of England voted to leave, however Ireland and Scotland voted to remain part of the European Union. Also, as you can see in the chart here, most of the younger generation voted to remain part of the European Union, whereas it was the opposite for the older generation. Now, I want to talk about Brexit now. Immediately after the referendum's results were announced, former Prime Minister David Cameron resigned and Theresa May took his place as Prime Minister. Shortly after coming to power, Theresa May activated Article 50 of the Lisbon Treaty, formally announcing Britain's exit from the EU. Britain has 2 years from that date to agree on a new deal with the European Union. After coming to power, Theresa May wanted more power when dealing with the European Union. She wanted more support from the Parliament. so she needed more chairs in the parliament. So she called for an early election, hoping she would gain these extra chairs. However, her gamble failed, and she lost 13 seats in the election, although still winning it. Experts believe there are two possible outcomes for the United Kingdom in the long run. The first is the Norway model, which is joining the European Economic Area. In a nutshell, the United Kingdom will still remain part of the European Union in an economic sense. It will still be bound to the economic rules of the European Union, but it will have no power to change them. The second model is the Switzerland model, which means bilateral trade agreements. So the United Kingdom will still remain part of the European Union common market for some sectors, such as banking and finance, but in others it's free to do whatever it wants. Many experts believe that the second one is more beneficial for the British government. This concludes my presentation. Thank you everyone for listening to me.